Today we're looking at one of the most important yet overlooked parts of any video. We're talking about audio. First off, let's talk about room treatment. Right now, I'm in a small-ish room. It's just one of the rooms in my house. It's about 9.5 feet by 10 feet. Kind of a funny room, actually. So this B cam right here is capturing what I'm doing in this setup here. This room's got an indoor here and an outdoor there. It's just kind of like a weird pass-through room, but not exactly a ton of space to do things in. And as you can see, I've got everything that I use to do my job in this room, either on this shelving unit over here where I've got all my gear, or on the desk over here where I, edit from and lay out stuff to make it look cool, I guess. I also film every piece of content that you see on this channel and on my Instagram page in this room. Every time I film, I just either change the angle or change some of the background, take stuff out, put stuff in, just switch it up a little bit, make it look like I'm not in the exact same space every time. But as far as treating it acoustically, it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. And that's kind of an issue with smaller rooms like this, right? Because in order for me to have depth visually, I kind of have to be closer to one wall than I am to the other one. And that challenges the audio treatment because you don't want all these blank walls that you're talking right into to bounce all of the audio off of each other and create echo and reverb. Have you ever been inside of a room that's completely empty, just a bunch of blank walls, and you feel like you have to talk really loud and all you hear is your echo just throughout the whole room, no matter how big or small it is, right? And so typically for audio, you want a lot of soft surfaces, or at least one or two in front of your voice to keep it from bouncing around and becoming just a huge echo. You can use furniture, blankets, pillows, carpet, towels, even a bunch of people in a room. If you're on set with a bunch of people, it kind of helps contain some of that audio and keep it from just bouncing around all over the place. Now, one of the most common professional solutions to audio treatment is foam. There's cheap and there's expensive versions of this, but for me today, I'm literally doing just the cheapest and the simplest solution, which is throwing up this blanket over this door here. And I'm also leaving this door open so that some of my voice can go out into that outside room and keep it from just bouncing around in here. That keeps it from being a direct corner. Those two things alone makes such a huge difference. And now that the door is open, if I really want, and I've done this before, I can set this camera outside the room, pointing in, so that it kind of makes the room feel a little bit bigger. Okay, so next we're gonna talk about microphones. Got a podcast microphone, the Rode PodMic USB, got a shotgun microphone, the Sennheiser MKE 600, and I'm wearing a lav microphone under my shirt here, the Tascam DR10L. So we're gonna start with the shotgun microphone. Typical uses for this are obviously, the film and video production. Then you've got like interviews in both controlled and uncontrolled environments. It's really good for capturing audio outdoors. If you throw like a windscreen on this or a dead cat. In untreated rooms, a shotgun microphone is gonna pick up the most reverb, the most echo, and it's gonna sound the worst out of these microphones. Going on to the podcast microphone. They're really great for voiceovers and studio recordings that require a warm, rich, full sound. They reduce a lot of background noise too. This is a dynamic mic, and dynamic microphones are typically better at removing a lot of that background noise because they're better in close environments like this, really close to my face. I actually have the furnace and the fridge both going right now, and I'm pretty dang sure you can't hear it through this right now, which limits how much you can move around with a podcast microphone, right? They're also less sensitive to soft sounds, especially with quieter voices. Now, a reason why you wouldn't want to use like a shotgun microphone in a podcast, which can be done, it's not necessarily a sin to do that, but typically why you wouldn't is because people that listen to podcasts want that full, rich, like almost conversational tone that comes from talking into a podcast microphone, as opposed to this. These are super directional, and so while it will be really good at isolating your voice, it's gonna be a little bit thinner, just a little bit, than something like this where it really is more boomy and bassy, and that just kind of has that podcast feel. Okay, now we're gonna go to the lav mic. You'll see these in like a lot of news stations, some theater and stage performances, or just kind of like hands-free audio capture where you don't have to set up another microphone. Lav mics are good because you just have this tiny little mic, you stick up here, kind of an unobtrusive look, captures audio pretty decently. Another one is that it captures consistent sound. Since it's attached to the person, wherever they go, the microphone goes. They're more susceptible to clothing noise or any rustles, any movement in your shirt. Kind of tap on it right here. You can hear all of that. Now, a reason that a lav mic is cheaper than both of these mics typically, I mean, you can get into a pretty expensive lav setup, but in general, the equivalent for quality of a lav mic to a podcast to a shotgun mic, lav mics are the cheapest. And one of the reasons for that is that since they're so small, they're meant to be nimble, they're meant to be on people that are moving around, they're not meant to be in like these huge studio settings, they're not meant to be on these huge film sets. I mean, you can use them for whatever you want, but they're not meant for that. And so the manufacturers focused more on portability over audio depth when they create these things. And so that's why it just doesn't have that same depth to it as some mics like these. So once you kind of get into video production and audio production a little bit more, you start to realize that it's not just about getting one nice microphone and using it for everything. It's more about figuring out what you're going to be filming or recording, and then from there being like, okay, what microphone is the best for this scenario? No microphone is flat out wrong or right, but each one is wrong and is right for different scenarios. So let's talk about mic placement now. So we're gonna start with a podcast microphone. Obviously, these are really close to your mouth, right? 1 to 3 to maybe 5 inches away from your mouth. Here's what it sounds like, 1 inch. Here's what it sounds like at about 3 inches, 5 or 6 inches, at about a foot, at maybe about 2 feet. If you're gonna be using it further than like 3 to 5 inches away from somebody's mouth, I don't know why you're using a podcast microphone. Now with a shotgun microphone, these are really great for distances that are a little bit further away. So for example, this one right now is probably about 15 to 18 inches away from my mouth. So here's what it sounds like. I'm at about 3 inches away from it, 6 to 8 inches away, 15, 18 inches away. You can even get further away. I mean, you could have this thing if you really wanted 2.5, 3 feet away from you, right? They're really good at capturing what's right in front of them. You don't want to get further than maybe even like 2 feet. I wouldn't get further away from it than 2 feet. But it's really good to just kind of sit right out of frame. It's also really good to mention that I don't have this thing pointed like directly at my mouth. I have this thing pointed like kind of more at my chest, almost like where this podcast microphone is where this is pointed, because I want it to capture the projection of my voice. Also, if I move around, if I lean forward or lean backward, at least it's still kind of capturing that voice a little bit better than if it was pointed directly at my mouth. All of a sudden I lean forward and it's just catching the top of my head, right? So it's really good to have it pointed 3 or 4 inches out away from your mouth and probably 15 to 18, maybe 20-ish inches above. I've also seen them where they're below too, but again, they're probably about 12 to 15 inches away from the mouth. And then with lav mic, I mean, this one is right directly under my shirt on the very top of my shirt. So like right up like my collarbone-ish, 4 to 6 inches away from your mouth. And again, they're meant to be used in the chest area, whether that's like taped to your chest with like a bubble bee mount, clipped to your clothing. They're meant to be used like 3 to 6 inches away from your mouth, kind of in your chest area. So now we're gonna talk about the delivery. You wanna have a mixture between a conversational and a confident tone, almost like you're sharing expert advice with a friend, but not lecturing them. A warm, friendly, and conversational tone helps your viewers feel like you're actually wanting to help them instead of just shove something down their throat. Have a relaxed pace, but still be energetic so that people don't feel like you're going way too fast, but they also feel like they can just sit and be on a journey with you as you go through your content. For example, if you're showing something really technical, don't just breeze through it. You can kind of slow down, pause, give your viewers a minute to breathe and take it in and process what's going on. You can use a quicker pace for the less technical stuff, like the intro, the outro, just cook through that stuff. A lot of the meat of the video that people are there to learn from and glean from, you wanna make sure that you're taking it not really slow, right? You don't wanna sound like Mountain Man off of Duck Dynasty.
Hey, Corey, how you doing?
Good.
Corey, how's the kids been doing lately?
They're all
Wow, man. I ain't got no time for slow talk.
But just take it at the right pace. Act like you're talking to somebody on the other side of the camera. That's what I do. I feel like there's one person behind the camera, not a whole audience, not all of YouTube, not even 1,000 people or even 10 people. One person at a time is going to be viewing your video, or maybe 2 people if they're watching together on a phone or a computer. Don't rush through your points, give them the time of day, talk with conciseness and clearness, and just deliver what you've got to deliver. You also wanna have a very strong visual flow. So whether that means like graphics or text or animations or B-roll, people more and more every day are visual learners. And so anything that you can add onto your video to kind of help them just grasp the concepts a little bit better helps a ton. Also with B-roll, show what you're doing, don't just tell what you're doing. And a cool little tip that you can do is ask your audience rhetorical questions. Like at the beginning of this video, I asked if you've ever been in an empty room and you've noticed that you've had to talk over yourself because of the echo. That rhetorical question kind of brings you in, makes you think, makes you be like, oh yeah, like I have been in that situation. And finally, your voice. The presentation of the thing, or your client's presentation, or the actor's presentation matters a lot more than the microphone you buy, or the treatment that you do to the room, or the settings that you've got on your audio recorder. A microphone can only capture what you give it. Just give it your best and it'll work out. Try not to stutter. And this one is the hardest one for me because I just tend to mumble over myself and stutter and just jump all over the place when I'm trying to just recite something that I've told myself 10 times already. This video that you're watching, I've probably had to say every line anywhere between 2 to like 40 times, just trying to get it just right for the camera. And that's actually a really good place to mention Viddy Studio. The boys that I'm doing this video with and for are launching a super dope software designed to help you cut out the bad takes. The way that it works is you script your video, you put your script into Viddy, you then have your phone or iPad or laptop, I've got my laptop right here, next to your camera somehow while you're recording. You then film the video, and then in whatever editing program that you use, Viddy will put markers over all of the good takes, and you'll literally take out all the rest, since, you know, the rest is just a bunch of bad takes. And not only the time, dude, but the frustration that this saves is like just freaking amazing. I cannot tell you how painful it is to sit in the editing room and just listen to yourself talk for hours on end. All you're trying to do is find the good stuff to put in the final video. Viddy takes out that entire step for you. These guys recently launched. Go ahead and check them out because this will literally make you excited to edit your videos again. And that's it for this video. From treating the room that you're in, to getting the microphone that's just right for the job, to making the right mic placement, to actually giving the delivery for the video. It's not just one thing, it's all of it. It's educating yourself and having a ton of trial and error and just getting better one thing at a time. You don't have to nail all of these things all at once. Dial in your acoustic treatment before you upgrade your gear. Try some different mic placement techniques. The best way to get better at anything is literally to just keep doing it over and over again. I know it's super cliche, but that's the best piece of advice that I can give you. Instead of just mindlessly scrolling through YouTube, trying to find all of the stuff that's gonna make you better, eventually you've gotta shut off that information overload and just go into like work mode and just do the thing. So thanks for watching and sticking around for this one, and I'll catch you next time.
Yeah, you better.